Hello everybody and welcome back to a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution video, and today I'm going to be showing each and every single one of you guys the power of Exodia. And by the way, I'm not using any normal Exodia deck. I am using an Exodia deck that I travel across the lands to build. I've been finding every single banned card that Konami doesn't want us normal players to use to create the most ultimate Exodia deck. But the thing is that this deck is not complete just yet. This is my first version of the Exodia FTK, and it still has room to grow and be powerful. So I hope you guys enjoyed the replays in today's episode, and let's get into it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the montage of me using my Exodia FTK deck, and as you can tell already from the beginning of the video, from the cards that I used throughout the montage, is that it's definitely not legal to play in the multiplayer side of things. This Exodia deck is only going to be playable and usable in the single player side of things, because with Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution, you are allowed to play 3 of every single ban card in the game. So that's what I've been doing in the campaign side of things, is just playing these, or just building broken decks that I can't use in multiplayer just for fun. Honestly, using this Exodia FTK deck is a ton of fun for just getting through a single player easily, and it's just a lot of fun to use because it's just fun that you just keep drawing cards over and over and over again. So there is that right there. And also with this Exodia deck list that you guys saw in the montage, this is going to be my first version of the Exodia FTK. So that's every single card, you know, besides like some of the newer stuff when it comes to the TCG and OCG. There's still a huge card pool in Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution that we're able to use, and there is definitely some other really broken and insane Exodia cards that I'm going to be able to use in the future. So expect some more Exodia FTK decks in the future of this game and stuff like that. But for now, I am rocking this one right here. So we're going to go check out this Exodia deck right here. And as you can see, this one is using a ton of banned cards, and I'll give you guys my reasoning on some of the cards and all that stuff. Now, first things first is that I still need to get a couple cards for this deck. I need to go for some of the tune cards, like the tune table of contents. I think that's how you pronounce the card. I'll pop it up on the screen. Still need to go for that card at some point. So due to that, I am running two copies of each Exodia piece, specifically because there's still some draw cards that I'm looking for, like tune table of consonants. I need a couple more copies of Jar of Greed, a little bit more copies of Foolish Burial would be nice, and then if I can, or actually I can run 3 cards of Stone. But yeah, not yet. And also what would actually be pretty good too is that if I had Red Eyes Toon Dragon, that would be a lot better compared to using Red Eyes Black Dragon, that is for sure. So I need to get cards like Red Eyes Toon Dragon, Toon Table of Consonants or Contents and stuff like that. Maybe more copies of Reloaded Magical Mallet. Just enough cards to not need to run 2 copies of each Exodia piece. But in this deck list, I'm running 2 copies of the left arm, 2 copies of the left leg, 2 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon. Originally, in some of my previous builds that I was rocking with, I was actually running the Red Eyes engine, like using Red Eyes Insight and Red Eyes Fusion to kind of thin out my deck a lot. But eventually I summed it down to only running 2 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon. But in my version 2 of this deck, I'm definitely going to replace the Red Eyes Black Dragons for the Red Eyes Toon Dragon to really synergize with the other Toon cards that I'm going to be going for. We have 2 copies of the right arm Forbidden One, 2 copies of the right leg of the Forbidden One. We have 2 copies of Armageddon Knight. If you didn't notice already from the replays, this card's really good because when you summon this card, you can send a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. So if, I don't know how to pronounce this card's name, so if we just send this Destructor card to the graveyard through Armageddon Knight, we can start using our traps from our hand. So that's when we can start using our Jar of Greed and Reckless Greed. And that's why I want 3 copies of Jar of Greed, because of this Destructor card right here. We also have 2 copies of the Exodia Forbidden One, which is nice, and that's pretty cool. Now, the only benefit of having 2 copies of each Exodia piece for this banned deck is that we can actually use them as targets for Allure of Darkness, because with this, running 3 copies of this card is very scary. Especially in the future if I do decide to run 1 copy of each Exodia piece, because the fact that you draw 2 cards and then you have to banish a dark monster right away, if you don't have a dark monster in hand, you got to banish the rest of your hand and you can't really do much from there. So that is definitely a factor that you got to deal with, but it is nice to run 2 copies of each Exodia piece, only specifically because of the reason of Allure of Darkness. But usually what I try to do is I use Allure of Darkness on my Destructor, Armageddon Knight, or my Red Eyes Black Dragon. That's usually the preferred target in most situations, but like I said, you can use the other Exodia pieces. Okay, so we're running 2 copies of Cards of the Redstone. This card is crazy good in certain cases because we can send a level 7 Red Eyes monster from our hand to the graveyard to draw 2 cards, and then we can follow up by sending another level 7 Red Eyes monster from a deck to the graveyard. So once I have 3 copies of Cards of the Redstone, which I actually think I do, I have 3 copies of Cards of Redstone, but later on I'll run 3 copies of Cards of Redstone, and then I'm going to run 3 copies of the Red Eyes Black Toon Dragon instead of Red Eyes Black Dragon. So then these Cards of the Redstone can even be better than before, and it's really good for drawing power. Currently only have 1 Foolish Burial. I cannot get this card for whatever reason, and I completely forgot how I got Foolish Burial in the first place. But due to me having Foolish Burial, I only have 1 copy of this, but it's used to discard the Destructor, or if I already have Destructor in my graveyard, I can just send a different card with Foolish Burial left out the deck. Next up, we're running 3 copies of Graceful Charity. This card's super good because you get to draw 3 cards and then discard 2 cards. So normally what we do is that if we have a Destructor in the hand, we can just discard it through Graceful Charity. So then we can start using our Jar of Greed and Reckless Greed. Really good card. You get to draw 3 cards out of this, so you can really thin out your Exodia pieces, which is pretty good. So we have 1 copy of Magical Mallet. Shuffle any number of cards from your hand to the deck, then draw the same number of cards. In most cases, I usually use Magical Mallet just to discard. Usually it's my discard for cards like Graceful Charity, but this card has definitely been useful in the past, so Magical Mallet's pretty good, so I like that right there. And I only have 1 copy Magical Mallet, so that's why I'm running 1 copy Magical Mallet. Next up we have 3 copies of Pots of Duality. Excavate, I think that's how you pronounce the word. Excavate the top 3 cards of your deck and then add 1 of them to your hand. Also after that, shuffle the rest back into your deck. You only can activate 1 Pot of Duality per turn. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this card. Now, this card's kind of a hit or miss for me. I think once I get all the other draw cards that I want, I'm probably going to bump this card down to 2, because there's a lot of times where, since you only can use this card once per turn anyways, this is usually another discard target that I use for a Graceful Charity. But Pot of Duality has definitely came in clutch in certain situations, because if I have 4 different Exodia pieces and I excavate one of the Exodia pieces from the top 3 cards in my hand, I can just add that immediately and go for win with Pot of Duality, or it can help me go into my other draw cards like Pot of Greed or Graceful Charity. So yeah, Pot of Duality is a pretty good card in certain situations, but for the most part, I'd recommend running 2 copies of this card. 3 is a little excessive, and it's mostly just a discard target for me when I'm using stuff like Graceful Charity. Next up, we're running 3 copies of Pot of Greed, the homeboy. You get to draw 2 cards, like what's more they gotta say? But then again, what does the card do? I'm surprised I'm able to use it so much. But yeah, Pot of Greed's a good card, of course, because you literally get to draw 2 cards, and it's gonna help you get your Exodia pieces. Next up, I'm running 1 copy Reload. Same reason with Magical Mallet, just to help out, kind of just like send the cards back to the deck, draw some new cards and all that stuff. But I only have 1 copy of Reload, so there's that right there. I think I'd use Reload more than Magical Mallet, but Magical Mallet kind of has its perks too. But having 1 of each of Reload and Magical Mallet's pretty nice, so I am okay with that. Next up, we have 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, because we literally get to draw 1 card, and since the point of winning with this Exodia deck is to not get rid of our opponent's life points, we really do not care if we give our opponent 1,000 life points, since all we're trying to do is win with Exodia. So 3 Upstart Goblins, great. Running 1 copy of Draw Greed. If I had 2 more copies of this card, I would definitely run them. That's for sure, because you can just use this. It's basically an Upstart Goblin once you get Destructor in the graveyard, so that's why we're running Draw Greed, because it's literally Upstart Goblin, so that's pretty cool. And last but not least, we're running 3 copies of Reckless Greed. It's basically a new Pot of Greed once a Destructor gets in the graveyard, but the downside is that you have to skip your new draw phases. But since this is an OTK or an FTK deck, does it really matter? Not really in most cases. And also, just ignore the extra deck. These were just before, with one of my previous versions of this Exodia deck, I was actually running Red Eyes Fusion to thin out my deck, but Red Eyes Fusion kind of clashed against Pot of Duality, so I kind of stopped doing that after I got all the cards that I needed for this deck list right here. We have Meteor Black Comet Dragon, is pretty cool, but yeah, I'm definitely not using him anymore in this deck list. But yeah, this is my first version of Exodia FTK. It can definitely be a lot better, but as you guys can tell from the beginning intro of the montage that I showed you guys with FTKing with this Exodia deck, you can definitely tell that this can work, and it's a lot of fun to do so far. But yeah, definitely give me, if for everybody who's watching this video to this point, give me some recommendations of some other cards that I could possibly try out to make this Exodia deck better, because of course, like I said, there is definitely some improvement that could be made with this deck list. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed today's Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution video. If you guys did, as always, be sure to hit that like button on the video down below and subscribe to the channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist content. I'm going to be giving you guys a mix of single player and multiplayer decks for this game, because it's a lot of fun to play banned cards, but I know that some people want to like actually have legal decks to use in the ranked PvP game mode, so I'll be working on those also in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll go see you guys in the next Yu-Gi-Oh! video. Peace.